So Stanford football got a $50 million donation. Andrew Luck, who's now the GM there, came out and said this is going to be great for our NIL. It's going to be great for scholarships. The thing in these statements that always makes me laugh, and it really, really does make me laugh, is that they still call them student athletes or scholar athletes. Like, we've moved so far past it being a schooling thing and them being students that they are just athletes. All right. They're paid to be there. They're paid to play. They're making large sums of money when we're talking about Division I athletes. And this just furthers the case that we're getting $50 million from one donor just to the football program. But this is where we are in athletics.
So are you against, I'm just trying to understand before I tell you my view of this issue, are you against these type of donations to a program?
No, I think if you are a school and you can get a donor to give up $50 million just for your program, then do it. I wish West Virginia, I wish there was, we had some coal money or some oil money or something that we can get thrown at the football program so that we can put a better product on the field. But right now, I'd be happy with 5 wins in a season. But until that happens, I can't fault programs for going out there and crowdsourcing money, because if people are going to pay up because they want to see some wins, go for it.
Well, this wasn't crowdsourcing. This was going to a former player on your team from the 60s, a really rich guy named Bradford Freeman, and saying, hey, any interest in taking care of the football program? I love general donations to endowments where the general fund, basically, where you can give people the power to use the money however they want to. But most people want to give money toward a specific thing. But in college, if you ask Stanford, so this is what I was thinking. If you ask Stanford for reals, you're about to get a $50 million gift from someone, where do you want to use it? I believe that Stanford would not have football as the number one place they would use it. They would put it into research. They'd put it into STEM. They'd put it into endowing chairs for professors. They'd put it into what makes Stanford Stanford. But $50 million, when someone comes in and says, hey, I'll give you 50, but it's only to the football program. Of course, you're not going to turn that down. But the question is, does it change anything about the football program? Because the quotes that came out, basically, the GM Andrew Luck said, with Brad's incredible gift, we are positioned to win on the field and build a bridge to a sustainable future for Stanford football. So I just have a quick question for you, Andrew. That means that you didn't have enough money from your university, from your boosters, from your collectives, whatever the case is. You didn't have enough money to pay the players you wanted. So therefore, you've got a list of players who you would take right now with this $50 million. Are you going to use it over 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, 2 years? Are you using it all next year? What exactly is your plan? Or are you using it for capital improvements, to improve the stadium, to improve the office space? Until I understand what the $50 million is going for, what's the payment terms? It's possible. I mean, who knows? Bradford Freeman may be making the gift after he croaks. That's very common. A legacy gift, a gift that comes sort of post-life. But what if the guy lives for 40 more years? Or what if it's payable 10 years, $5 million a year? You can't. That means you can only use $5 million of it. If it all came in a lump sum, do you want to blow your whole wad on your roster for next season? Even though Frank Reich is the interim coach, he won't be there next season. You'll have a new coach. Or do you want to keep your powder dry and all of your student athletes right now? See you later. You'll get out of Stanford. You'll cure cancer, please. That you can cure disease, that you can find a way to make the world. How about Middle East peace? Find a way to do that. Anything, please. Is that really something that the scholar athletes will do? So there's so much about this gift that we don't know, and that is the real world of gifts. Amounts are announced, like when you name a building, $100 million, except it's payable over 20 years. When these NIL gifts come, these program gifts come, you got to look at the details of the contracts, because it's a full contract that's negotiated with these donors. It is not just, hey, they wire money into the account. It is a negotiated contract between a rich donor and the university who receives it that goes into very specific detail. Details like how much power does Brad Freeman have over where the money is used within the football program. If Stanford wants to buy a new weight room and wants to buy Frank Reich, bigger pants, that can be allowed, or you can specify that it's not allowed. So a lot of stuff, and we just don't have that information. It is a nice gift for Stanford. Don't get me wrong, Coca. However, I certainly don't believe in what Andrew Luck said, which is this is going to now change and build a bridge to our sustainable future, because really it may just enable them to get back to par with the teams that are competing for, who already have bigger budgets, more money being poured into their football program. So we will wait to see on that. But that was
but there's also there's also the other part of this thing, and that is that Front Office Sports came out and they had this report that a legislator tried to bring a bill forward to stop private equity from coming into college. And you had seen that the Big Ten had recently come out and said that, they're looking around to try and get, I think it's $2 billion, to help with these settlement payments and to help with the salary caps that these programs and these teams would have. So, my question to you would be, if people don't want money coming from private equity because of what that brings and sort of the dangers that they've seen in other industries when it comes to private equity coming over and wanting to churn out profits and gains and just worried about that, where do they expect this money to come from? And you've seen what schools some schools have done where they're raising ticket prices, or for students that weren't paying for tickets before, that's now being added to your tuition. Or if you are a student, maybe they bump up your tuition in other places and still extract that money just to pay for the athletics. Or it's the biggest one where it's a lot of athletic programs are going to disappear. Where if you're a smaller school, you're going to disappear. If you're a smaller program in a school like the swim team or the dive team or the tennis team, any of these other teams, you're going to disappear. So my question to you would be like, where else can they turn on a faucet to get money to keep up with what's happening in this landscape?
You got to have a really rich alum who like to dive, or you have a rich alum whose child likes to dive. That's always a popular one as well. Or you could have a really rich alum who pretends that his child dives. You could try that too. I always used to, I don't know if you ever did this. I had, when the years of Duke, like being really good, and maybe they still are, or whatever. There's always, have you ever looked at the end of the bench on Duke with the 5'5" white guys, which always gave me hope that I could play college sports or I could play high school sports? You need someone on the end of the bench, like, why not? I've always thought about those guys, how happy they must be to be on the team. They don't see minutes. Sometimes in garbage time, they'll come on the court, and maybe they were the best in their prep league, but that wasn't your question. Your question was, what is going to happen to these other sports? How do you find the money? And the answer is very simple. These colleges are like countries. They've got huge budgets, multi-hundreds of pages of budgets. Money's fungible, so you can take money out of one area, moving it to another, but you're hurting something to help something, which is robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's where the expression comes from. And for me, colleges are just the business. And yes, sometimes in business, a franchise location will close. Sometimes in business, they will stop doing a show. They will stop putting money into this research or this development. The colleges have always been a business, so I've never been upset about that. And the reality is, in business, hard decisions have to be made. And often what universities used to do is they would hide behind the fact they were universities and therefore use federal funding or use donor funding to not have to make tough decisions. And those days are over. You've got to make tough decisions right now. And that's all that's happening around college. And frankly, it's happening everywhere in the country, if not the world, that people are realizing that, hey, given where we are politically, tough decisions do need to be made.